Well, thank you, Dr. Warnick. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is a real privilege for me. You heard correctly that I graduated as a mechanical engineering student from the University of Utah, but I was raised on BYU football, so that means that my veins have red blood in them and my arteries have blue blood, and I'm okay with that. I can enjoy that. In fact, we were just talking earlier, I tell our children that we love both schools, but at one point they came home and said, "Dad, the kids at school say we can't do that. We have to choose." So, but I love both schools. Well, I'm looking forward to this next little while together to just think together on some leadership principles and look for an opportunity for some thoughts to strike us that will help us make the world a better place. And so I hope that we can enjoy that time together, just noodling over some of these ideas. I'd like to start with a personal story, if that's okay. In 2004, as I was working as a research engineer, I was in London or New York or somewhere doing some business, and I was woken up in the middle of the night, a phone call from the founder of the company US Synthetic, Louis Pope. And he said to me, "I didn't see an angel, but I've sure had clarity of thought." I thought, oh boy, I wonder what that has to do with me and my life. He said, "I want you to be the production manager." So, that wasn't my goal in life, to be a production manager. I was a research engineer. And so I said, I appreciate that. I appreciate your vote of confidence. I haven't been trained to do that. I don't really want to do that. So, no thanks. And he said, "Well, you start on Monday." So when the founder of the company says that, I guess that's your new job. So I went to work doing this and really felt pretty clueless about how to do this job. And as I tried to figure out what was going to be important and started reading books and looking for opportunities, I had a chance to visit another manufacturing company in Utah, a great manufacturing company named Autoliv. They're up in northern Utah, and they make airbags for automobiles. So a supplier to Toyota and others, and went up there and started to learn some of the principles of lean manufacturing and continuous improvement and those ideas, and was excited by what I heard. In fact, we went to a little conference where a dozen of their managers spoke to us, and they spoke so clearly about these principles that they operated by that it just blew my mind. And from the first day of the conference, driving home with a coworker, all we could talk about is, how do we get one of those guys? How do we hire one of those people that knows that stuff? Let's get them to US Synthetic. The next day, we went to their factory, and we saw these principles at work, and we were amazed at that vision that they had for how things could work in operations. And so we started to pursue that course. Well, during that early time, in a conversation with one of the managers at Autoliv, I was told that they were implementing 1,700 employee suggestions a month with 1,700 employees. And that blew my mind, right? So I said, how is that possible? And they answered my question with a question. They said, what is your ratio of problem finders to problem fixers? And the light bulb over my head kind of went off, right? I thought, well, I know what that number is. It's 220 to Kevin. Because I knew the guy's name. So maybe you've worked at a place like this. This is pretty typical. We had good intentions at work. We would ask folks for their suggestions, right? So if you've got a good idea, you're working in a process all day long, you see opportunities to improve. If you have a suggestion, we want to hear it. But think about this process. So an employee would write a suggestion on a piece of paper, drop it off in a suggestion box by the time clock on the way out the door. Some other point, managers would get together and they would look over those ideas and they'd say, well, it looks like John had a great idea, Stacy had a pretty good idea, we ought to do that. And then they would hand it to Kevin, who was the facilities manager, and say, let's do that. Well, what's the problem with that? Well, Kevin, as the plant manager, already had 250 great things on his list, right? He was trying to get to, and they were mostly big things at the top. And so we wouldn't get to implementing most of those ideas in the organization. Then, of course, as an employee, if you've been in that situation, you kind of start to feel like that's just lip service, that your ideas are valued. And so it doesn't sustain a culture of giving ideas or implementing ideas. So I want you to look here at a chart of the number of implemented employee suggestions, or what we call at US Synthetic Kaizen, this Japanese word for implementing a change for good. This is the number of suggestions implemented per year. So back in 2004, 2005, when we were first starting this, we noticed we're only implementing a handful a year. Even though we would ask folks for their ideas, we would get some ideas, we would hand out movie tickets to the people that we thought had given a valuable idea, but we weren't implementing a lot of ideas. And you can see for the last 3 years, with about 900 employees, we've implemented over 30,000 employee suggestions a year. So I want you to have that in the back of your mind. That's a transition we've gone through and learned a few lessons along the way. I'd like you to consider this verse from Proverbs. Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. It's the complete verse, I think, that's important and instructive. Maybe some of us have heard the first half of that. And so I want to cover both of these principles. The first one being the critical role of vision. Clearly, it's important to and has a protective influence in our lives. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he, which suggests that there are personal choices that we make to align ourselves with the vision. Maybe a term for that would be self-accountability. And that has great power and brings happiness. And I think it's worth exploring both of those principles. Let's ponder over this list of modern company profiles. The first has been termed the interstate. This is probably, I think, the interstate because lots of folks traveling down, lots of corporations travel down this particular road where the bottom line is the most important thing. At any cost, we want to make a profit, and other issues go by the wayside. The second being known as the highway, which is maybe traveled by less organizations, where at least people are recognized as a means to an end, but the end still being profit. But we like to think about this last company profile, the road less traveled, where profit is the means to an end, and that end is the realization of human potential. Think about the behavioral differences you might witness within these three organizations. Do you think they would be different? Sure, they would be, right? Because the vision is different. The inputs and outputs and how they're valued are different, and that leads to different behavior by leadership as well as all the members of that organizational community. This is what we call at US Synthetic our strategy ladder, our strategy tree. And the vision is on top. And I think if you ask anyone who works at US Synthetic, they can tell you what the vision is. In fact, Dr. Warnick had an opportunity just the other day to ask an employee of US Synthetic, what's the vision? And we all know, improving lives. And so I want to walk you through a little bit of how that works and why it's in this ladder form. There's an S on improving lives for a reason. There's a community of people who associate with US Synthetic, and we want all those lives to be impacted in a positive way. And you can see we list those here: employees, customers, shareholders, and communities. It's not a trade-off. Sometimes we hear in business or in other organizations that we do something for one at the expense of another. It doesn't always have to be that way. And leadership finds the linkages, the alignment that blesses the lives of everyone associated with the organization. So think about this. It's not that hard to picture it. Can you imagine happy, engaged, enthusiastic, skilled employees working on products or services that make life better for the customer? Well, the customer will continue to come back for those products and services. That creates growth. And growth is why investors invest in an organization. And at the same time, the organization is a greater force for good in the community. So pretty easy for that alignment to be seen. Now, we make diamond teeth that go on drill bits that drill for oil and gas. And so we have an economic engine. From a business perspective, we call that being the leader in diamond solutions. And so we look to drive that economic engine forward to produce the thrust to move the organization. But it's not the purpose or vision of the organization. It provides an opportunity for us to do meaningful work and to grow and develop individually as well as a community. From a customer's perspective, then, we think, well, what do they want? What do they value? We believe they value best relationships, best products, and best speed. And so throughout the organization, we talk about those things. We think about those things. How does improving those aspects of our business drive improved lives? But those things can be hard to measure, right? The best relationship, best speed, those can be tough. So we think, how do we approximate those values in everyday life? And maybe think about the things that you value in your life, or any vision that has affected your life. And what does it mean on a day-to-day basis? How would you measure it? So we boil that down into some of these things that you can see, like responsiveness or profitability and growth, delivering what the customer wants, when they want it, in the quantity they want it, and we measure those things every day so that we can see a gap between the vision and what we're doing every day. Can you see how vision empowers improvement? Right? So we can measure, once we understand the vision, then we can see the difference between where we are and where our vision would take us. So simply put, see the vision, see the gap, solve the problem. We can begin to solve the problem, happy life, right? So that to me is the modern day, I guess, equivalent of the verse in Proverbs. So let me share a few more thoughts about this. I mean, if you can't see that something's broken, how would you fix it? Right? Sometimes we go through life unaware that things could be better. We live beneath our privileges, so to speak. And yet when we have a vision that establishes where things could be, or how things could be, then we realize something is broken, and we start to progress in a line in accordance with that vision. An experience that I've had throughout my career, I would say holds 100% of the time, is when I visit a work site that is struggling. What I always find is good people outperforming a broken system and a weak vision. It's never the case that I've witnessed a people problem. It's always a people solution. But a weak system and a weak vision handicaps us too much of the time. So remember these auto leave managers, right? That I was strategizing on how could I get one of those guys to come work at US Synthetic. Well, we started down this journey of doing some things a different way, trying to provide an opportunity for everyone to come to work and do their best work. I think everyone has that intrinsic motivation. And as we started to do that, guess what? We found out those guys already worked at US Synthetic, right? Lots and lots of those folks worked at US Synthetic. The circumstance just didn't exist for everyone to do their best work every day, and that's a key leadership principle. When we find ourselves tempted to say someone isn't doing very good work or a team is failing, we should always go to that place and witness what really happens, and I will guarantee 100% of the time, you'll find good people outperforming a broken system and a weak vision. And that's a reflection of management. And so it's the leader's responsibility to change that. You know, I think if you've taken any psychology classes, you know this difference between kind of X thinking and Y, X and Y thinking. And it's appropriate BYU, we think we're Y thinkers, right? We assume that people come to the workplace wanting to do their best work. In fact, a question I often get about this chart that shows, you know, going from 5 implemented employee suggestions to 30,000 implemented suggestions. You won't be surprised that folks ask me, how do you incentivize people to do that, right? How do you incentivize? That should be a big red flag, because folks came in the morning planning to do their best work anyway, right? Why would we have to incentivize someone to do their best work? It's not the case. The incentive exists, but so did the disincentives in our organizations, whether it's in a family or a school or any other organization. There can be so many disincentives and hurdles in a person's way that's more of the problem. So to say, how do I incentivize, is like saying, how do I get someone to do something they otherwise don't want to do? And we should hear that translation in our head. Why wouldn't someone, why don't our children want to clean their rooms, right? Why wouldn't someone want to go to church? Or why wouldn't someone want to show up and do their best work every day? And it's these other things that are in the way that as a leader we have to provide a circumstance for everyone around us to do their best every day. You give you a little, another story. Every 6 months at US Synthetic we host something called a Kaizen Fair. So I tell you that word Kaizen, making an improvement for the better. And in fact, it'll happen tomorrow at US Synthetic. And it's a circumstance, if you can picture, where we'll get maybe 10 to 12 teams that have done some great stuff, and we say, take a little presentation board, kind of a 3 foot by 4 foot board, like a felt board, and come up to the restaurant that we have in the building, and set that up on a table and walk us through something really cool that you've done to improve the business. And so if you were to go there tomorrow, what you'd see, you might walk up to Jim, and he's going to represent his team, and he's an operator on a process, and he would say something like, this is a problem that we found in our area that was causing us some concern. And we weren't able to deliver the right stuff to the customer because we had this problem. So we did some analysis, and we used these tools to find out what was really the root cause of this problem. And then we went to work to try to find some countermeasures for this. And we did some testing. We went through our hypothesis a few times, and we reinvented kind of our problem statement, our hypothesis, and we found a real gold nugget. And we've changed that at the work site, and now we save $100,000 a month doing this. Our customers are happier with us, and life is good. And on the other side of that little table, you would see Jim's wife, and read in her face something like, wow, my husband is important to this organization. This is a good life. We probably have some stability here. And then you would see little Billy looking up going, man, my dad is smart. This is good, right? This is a good life. So compare that to handing out movie tickets and not actually implementing the suggestion. I mean, where's the incentive, right? And so we want to create that kind of an organization everywhere we go. That circle should exist around us. And if we create vision, and each of us can measure our current performance to that vision, then we can see that gap. And if we're problem solvers, we can go to work to close that gap and to make life better. I have a question for you. Have you noticed that problem solvers always have a job? So you're going to come out of the university looking for a job, or maybe looking for a job now. Problem solvers always have a job. whether they get paid for it or not. They just can't help it, right? You see something that's not working right, and you adopt a project, and you go to work trying to close that gap and trying to fix that problem. Problem solvers also tend to create value. They do something of value. They take something that's unorganized or something that doesn't work the way in an optimal way, and they fix it. And people notice, and they say, I value that. I need you to do some of that work for me. And profitable jobs come to problem solvers. In fact, problem solvers sometimes see problems no one else has tried to tackle, and they create businesses out of them, like our founder did. And they hire lots of other folks. We hear a lot in the media about we need to create more jobs. We got to create more jobs in this country. We have to create more jobs in this state. I think, well, who's we? Who are we talking about? Politicians? I don't think that's kind of how it works. Who's this we that's going to create jobs? I think maybe we should change our language a little bit and say, we need to create problem solvers. Imagine if we were the best institution at creating problem solvers. We created the world's best problem solvers. Can we imagine that they wouldn't have jobs? Can we imagine that they wouldn't create jobs, create organizations that hire more people? We need to be creating the world's best problem solvers, whether it's in our homes, if it's in our neighborhoods, our communities, our states, and our nation. We need to be about creating problem solvers. And we need to be problem solvers. If we're the kind of folks that can draw a circle around a problem, identify where a problem exists, where a gap exists to the vision, then we'll have a job, and we'll make a difference in the world. So I would encourage everyone to, on a daily basis, exercise the problem-solving muscle. It's something that we can build. It's a strength we can build. It's easy to be a problem finder, right? Any of us, and engineers tend to be particularly good at this. We can walk by something and say, that doesn't work right. That needs to be fixed. That's broken. We can be critical of those things, and so being a problem finder, that's not that impressive. Being a problem solver, a problem fixer, is a whole different thing, and so that's worth exercising. I've been asked before, how did you become the CEO, or what's the path for being the CEO of an organization? And I don't know. I didn't plan it. And in fact, I didn't want it. I still want to be an engineer. And so I try to think that I engineer an organization, and I try to see if the cogs and wheels and gears and belts all kind of come together to produce the things that the organization promises to do. But this I do know. Wherever I was assigned to a problem, I tried to fix the problem. And when I was working hard to fix problems, someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, I have another problem for you to fix. I have something else for you to work on. And so I would go to work on that, and then somehow midstream someone would say, I want you to do something else. And in some cases, like when I was a research engineer, I said, I don't want to do that. I'm not done fixing the problem that I'm working on. But then was pulled to something better and had an opportunity to move upward in the organization. Okay, so I have a little mental exercise for everyone. I want you to roll out a mental sheet of paper in your mind, and if you get a chance, it'd be nice to do it with a real piece of paper, but take that mental piece of paper and fold it into 4 quadrants. I want you to maybe to think this anytime you encounter a problem or an opportunity. In that upper left-hand corner, describe your vision. What can you imagine is the good life, the way that you want things to be? And then right next to that, describe the current reality. So how could things be, and how are things in reality. That's a powerful exercise just right there, because what becomes clear is the gap. Here's the gap to close. Here's the problem to be solved, and the world would be a better place if we did that. In that lower left corner then, try to figure out why that gap exists. Why would it be that way? What's the circumstance that creates that gap, and start to list those things. What's your hypothesis? One of the tricks that some of our Japanese friends at Toyota use, something called the 5 whys. Ask why 5 times. Why is it this way? Oh, because of this. Well, why does that exist? Because of this. Why does that exist? Because of this. And by the 5th time, you have a pretty good idea of the root cause. And then put together a plan. What do you want to try? What's your experiment? Take something you think is the root cause, make a change, and test it out. And then check to see if you get a new result. Then the question would be, if I didn't get a different result in my life or in my organization, did I actually implement the change? So if I'm red on that one, I got to go back and actually implement that. If I get a green on that, yes, I implemented the change, but I didn't get the result, then I would question my hypothesis. Is that really working well? I need to go back, see if I really identified the right gap and identified the right root cause, and I'll make a circle out of this. So we'd say lather, rinse, and repeat, as it says on the back of the shampoo bottle. And to continue to do this over and over and over will close that gap and move us to whatever it is, that vision we want, to be a world-class manufacturer, to be a great leader, to be a great student, to be a world-class engineer. It's a very simple way to do it, but it's powerful. These are the principles that we teach at US Synthetic that have moved us from a ratio of 220 to Kevin back in 2004 to now. Hopefully we have 900 plus problem solvers at US Synthetic, and they deliver 30,000 meaningful implemented suggestions every year. And I'll tell you, I gave you the example of an employee at the Kaizen Fair. When I hear these folks present their case, the quality of those presentations is generally better than most engineers that I come across. So it's a powerful, powerful principle. Take a look at it and put it into practice. I think you'll be happy with it. Anyway, I think from my own experience, we accomplish more good, enjoy more success, have more fun, and improve more lives when we deploy a meaningful vision and empower a culture of aligned problem solvers. And so I wish you well in your own application of the law of vision. So thank you for your time. So I'm happy to take any questions you might have. I think we have a few more minutes. Yeah.
I didn't hear how you went from 200 people and 1 Kevin to 900 people and 30,000 solutions. Do you go around Kevin? How does that work?
That is such a great. I'm so glad you asked that question. Let's
repeat the question.
Yeah. So the question is, how do we actually transition from 220 to Kevin to 900 problem solvers? Did we have to go around Kevin? And it's a great question, because we ought to think about the structure of the institution that leads to only implementing 5 and leading and implementing 30,000. And it gets to the heart of actually a strategic advantage in an organization. So one thing we can do is, as management, we can say, we understand the vision. We know what would be good decisions. We have good judgment. Let's ask everyone for their suggestions, roll them up, and decide if they're good suggestions. And then we'll implement those. So imagine, I think I come up with 3 to 5 good ones in a year myself. That's not enough to be a great organization, right? And I could probably only approve another 20 that I would have any clue of whether it's really a good idea, because it's coming from somewhere in the business that I don't operate that piece of equipment or process. So it's got to be a different way. It can't come to Kevin, right? He can't make all those decisions. He can't work fast enough to get 30,000 to happen. So, well, we could say to everyone in an organization, hey, if you've gotten a great idea, do it. Knock yourself out. That's a little bit scary too, right? Because we could have chaos in an organization. So you have to think about the leadership's role in this case. I want the speed of learning at 30,000 implemented suggestions in a year. Because if a competitor is learning at the 5, that's going to be a competitive advantage. We're going to learn and improve faster than anyone. That means we're going to launch great products faster than anyone. That means customers will have no other choice and competitors will have no chance. So that's the organization I want. I want that speed. So what we finally realized is, why are we keeping those things to ourselves? Let's deploy the vision and strategy to the organization. Let's push that out. So everyone should be able to know vision and strategy. And then we adopted a methodology for solving problems, which I just shared with you, and we deployed that. So now anyone at any work site, whether it's in finance or it's in engineering or it's on the shop floor, they understand the vision and they say, well, I see that we're not quite making that. Maybe the vision today is deliver 150 defect-free parts from this factory. We're delivering 100. Well, I can see it. Well, where am I losing time? Well, I can see it. If I move those 2 machines closer together and eliminated 5 steps every time, I've got another 5 seconds every time I make a part, and that adds up to another couple minutes in the business to be able to make more parts. Well, why would he have to come to me and say, I got an idea, right? Just do it. So what we did is we decentralized that whole program. So if you come to US Synthetic, you'd walk to a work site and you could just say, what problems are you working on? How are you fixing them? Show me the last thing you did. And they would say, here's something that Bob did 10 minutes ago, and it's better. And we say, of course it's better. I can clearly see it's aligned with the strategy. So now instead of asking for suggestions, we just walk out on the shop floor or in engineering and say, show us all the cool stuff you've accomplished in the last day or week or month. Does that answer the question okay?
So is there any level at which they decide, is there any review on a proposal before it gets decided?
Yeah, okay, so yeah, good question.
I do this job, this is what I'm going to do.
Good question. So any level of review for the suggestion before it's implemented. So now it's very localized as a team, and everyone knows the scope that they have responsibility for. So someone operating a machine wouldn't necessarily say, I'm going to re-engineer the product. They understand the things that need to be done within that scope. They can see the gaps versus the vision in that scope. And so it's very easy. You'd see typically, say on the shop floor, a team of 5 or 6 folks that every 2 hours literally take a break, make a huddle. What do we see? What's broken? Do we see anything we want to try differently to make plan? And they'll show those ideas. At the end of a shift, they would actually fill out a log and say, hey, we like this idea. We think that's a better way to do work. Review with the team. You might get other input from other team members. Hey, and we could do this. Hey, let's try it. They'll run the experiment. It really is better. And they'll do it. If there was something that, hey, this needs engineering input, or it's going to cost something significant, they know where to find engineers and they know where to find the purchasing folks. But most of those suggestions, if you have the vision and you have a methodology for solving the problem, it's as good or better than anything I would come up with. So they do it. Yeah. Yep.
How do you motivate people to take ownership of the company's performance, and how are they recognized?
And so the question is, how do we motivate people and how do we align their performance with the performance of the company? How are they recognized? Again, I think there's a lot of intrinsic motivations to perform well anyway. The reasons for alignment in organizations is the people working in an organization don't know what the company is actually about and what the vision is. once that's clear, it's really easy for folks to realign themselves. But I'll tell you, there are a lot of crazy things that we can do in organizations that maybe we learned as little kids, I don't know, that can tear that apart. And one of those things is individual bonuses. I know that might freak people out that I say that. But we have a profit sharing program at US Synthetic. So let's think of how this plays out. So what's your name? Coulter? So Coulter and I are working on a team together, and we work at a company where the boss says, okay, Rob, Coulter, I got $20,000 of bonus money, and I'm going to split it up at the end of the year between you two. Right? Well, you can imagine how that motivates me, right? As long as Coulter looks like a bum at the end of the year, I'm in good shape, right? Now let's say we work at US Synthetic, and hey, you guys, we're sharing the profits. 10% of the profit is going to be divided among the employees. So now I think, wow, okay, we want to be profitable as a company. I'm aligned. I get it. What do I want Coulter's day to look like? Man, bring your best stuff every day. Bring your best ideas. And you want me to bring my best ideas. And if you're having a bad day, I'm going to be helping you. If I'm having a bad day, you're going to be helping me, because we're going to win or lose together. And so from a financial perspective, that's alignment with profit sharing, which I think is really good, team-based sharing. In terms of recognition, we try to just recognize every day, hey, nice move, great idea. Implementing someone's idea is the best. That is real flattery, right? To say, we like it so much, let's actually do it. And then to invest in everyone in the business to make everyone a better problem solver. In 2011, we won something called the Shingo Prize for Operational Excellence, which is a pretty big deal for manufacturers. And I love the prize because it recognized everyone in the organization as a problem solver, and that kind of recognition goes a long way. But the marketing folks came to me and said, we really need to do a little publicity video. And I hate that stuff, you know. I mean, I have a hard enough time just here, kind of up on stage. I wish I was sitting in the seats with you, but I said, you got to do this. I said, okay, well, I don't want to do it. Who else could we get to be part of it? And we decided, let's get half a dozen employees and interview them about the experience. And I got to ask the questions on the back side of the camera. And I asked this question about how has using this lean manufacturing, this kind of problem-solving method, improved your life? And everyone's first example was from something other than work. Like one of the gals said, oh, my husband and I have never had a handle on our finances. Now we use this problem-solving stuff and we do all this stuff, and we're financially we're good. Somebody else talked about getting his kids to clean the house. It was awesome. The last person I said, tell us how doing this has affected your life at work. And he said, do I have to talk about just work? So I think when you're doing something that's of value and you share together improving lives, the motivations, I say the motivations are I think you're not creating motivation, you're satisfying an intrinsic motivation that we all just kind of are born with. Thanks for a great question. Yeah.
30,000 changes a year is a lot. It's a pretty fast pace, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you love the improvement, but there's probably also a cost to implementing new things because of the new training or changing, mindset and learning new things. How do you balance that, sort of getting the improvements but not costing too much but changing too much too fast?
That's a great question. The question is about the balance between the cost of doing this improvement kind of activity, training folks and implementing versus the kind of the return on that investment. First of all, we never do the ROI calculation. That is a killer. Because it's not about, is that idea a moneymaker? It's about developing problem solvers. And are we engaging our minds? There's a story about a gentleman who worked at a company for 40 years, and he retires, and the HR group has him come in for an exit interview, right? What's the last thing you want to tell us before you're gone, I guess? And he said, you paid for my hands for 40 years. You could have had my mind for free. And, right, think of the power of that. To engage minds, good things will come. You can just take it on faith that there will be a payoff for engaging minds. And so we do that. We just try to make sure the vision is clear so we're engaged at going down the right path, right? We don't do the kind of drive-by Kaizen. We want to have aligned Kaizen to improve the business, but on most stuff, we just avoid trying to do the ROI calculation. Here's one of the reasons why, too. If we had dollar bills and quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies scattered around the room, and we said, hey, everybody go pick up what you can find, we'd gather up all the money, right? But if we said, I'm not so sure pennies, nickels, and dimes are worth it. Everybody take the next 10 minutes and figure out, do the math, to see if it's worth picking up pennies, nickels, and dimes. Well, we'd spend more we'd spend more on trying to figure out if it was worth picking them up than we would make by just picking them up. So we kind of take that approach. There are some big things, big projects, of course, that we do the usual calculations on, but usually to optimize it. Thanks for the question. One more question? There's one. Yeah.
Is your employee satisfaction related to retention?
Yeah, so the question is about the relationship between employee satisfaction and retention. We have a very, very low turnover rate, and we think that's partly because it just is, it's a more enjoyable life when you come and get to use your mind, and every day you've made a difference to march an organization towards its vision. So turnover is very low, although there's a certain amount of turnover that we really like. I'll give you an example. If someone who's studying mechanical engineering at BYU right now is working at US Synthetic as an intern, for instance, when they finish the degree, we want them to go off and do whatever cool thing they want to do, right? And if that's building airplanes and we don't build airplanes, we say, go build airplanes. We love it. If we have an employee, we pay 2/3 of tuition and books for students that work at US Synthetic if they're working full time, and that could be anything. That could be medicine, psychology, whatever. And we wish folks well. We just hope they take those problem-solving skills and put them to use at home or in their career elsewhere. And so there's a certain amount of turnover that naturally happens that way, and we wish folks well, but it's generally fairly low. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to spend a little bit of time with you thinking about these things, and wish you well.